Okay, so yes, as Luigi said, let's everybody welcome along to our June version of our San Diego Tableau user group meeting, and really excited about this one. This is coming off of the back of a fantastic Tableau conference, and we're hoping to take that momentum from Tableau conference through the next rest of the year. We are kicking that off in a big way with a really great guest presenter today with Andy Kriebel. He is going to talk to us all about map layers, which is a topic close to my heart. We will have some time at the end for a Q&A with Andy. So think of those questions, get them in the chat or the Q&A, and we will tee them up with him. They can be about today's presentation or anything else that is on your mind. And before we kick it over to Andy, let's do some introductions to your TUG leaders here. I'm Michael McCusker. I'm a Tableau tech lead at DaVita. I've been a part of this TUG for a couple of years and part of the organizers now for coming up on a year now. And I've been using Tableau for about 6 years. I'm actually a member of Andy's Next Level Tableau, so I'm really happy to have him on here. I'll pass it over to you, Luigi.
Thanks, Michael. I'm Luigi. I'm a Tableau ambassador and vice president of operations here at Direct Avenue. We're a linear and connected television media buying agency. I've been using Tableau, I can't count that high, well over a decade, and I'm very excited for today's presentation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kayla Swain. I work for a healthcare startup called Archwell Health based out of Nashville, but I now live here in San Diego. I've been helping Luigi with the, and now Michael for I think about 2 years with the San Diego TUG, and I've been using Tableau I think almost 8 years now, so quite some time. I'm excited for this presentation to learn a little bit more about map layers, which still for me is one thing I haven't spent too much time with, so I'm really looking forward to this presentation.
Great, and then not joining us today is Ashley, one of the other organizers. But moving along, we have Andy Kriebel today, and I don't know, it always feels silly. I feel like introducing Andy. Most of you will know who he is, but if you don't, he is a Visionary Hall of Famer, Tableau ambassador, and he runs and coaches in a program called Next Level Tableau. And he is hitting the TUG circuit hard at the moment. He appears to be in every TUG in every location. So we're really grateful that he's joining us today, talking all about map layers. So I'll kick it over to you, Andy.
It is an absolute pleasure to be here as always. San Diego's my 5th favorite user group. No, just kidding. So I'm going to be talking to everybody today about, I actually changed this presentation, Michael. I'm not calling it Mark's layers, because if you notice when you drag on to the view, it actually says Mark's layers, not Mark's layers. I could have sworn it always said map layers, but maybe that's a change they made. So I'm going to refer to it as Mark's layers throughout the presentation. Thank you for having me again. I'm actually coming to you from Panera Bread in the middle of in Center City, Philadelphia. My mom is sitting across the table from me. She's never heard me present before, but she's on her phone, not paying attention. So what I'm going to do today is hopefully inspire you to learn how to use Mark's layers in order to create any visualization in Tableau. Real quick overview of what we're going to go through. I'm going to take you through kind of my, this is actually not in the right order, but I'm going to start by actually showing you how map layers work, right? So how to use these layers just in maps in general. So I'll do a quick demo there. And then I'm going to just show you some examples of what's possible with map layers, some of the things that we've built in Next Level Tableau classes. And then I'm going to get into explaining to you how to use map layers without maps. And I'll go through and build a demo in that as well. And it's actually a demo I've never built. Sorry, there's a bug flying in front of my face. It's a demo I don't think I've ever built in a webinar before. So we'll see how it goes. I did rehearse ahead of time, so hopefully we're okay with this session. As Michael said, I'm a Tableau Visionary Hall of Famer. I've been using Tableau for 19 years now. So 8 years is really, you're just getting started if you have 8 years of Tableau experience. So yeah. And I got over 1,500 visualizations on my Tableau public profile. And it's one of the things that I try to really stress to people is as you're building things, make sure you're publishing them up to your Tableau public profile and posting them on LinkedIn, start building that network. You never know where it could lead. And I got my start with Tableau at Coca-Cola, where I led Tableau training there, and then moved on to Meta Tableau practice before moving to London to start the data school. And I did that for 8.5 years before leaving and starting Next Level Tableau. And you may or may not know, but I actually founded the first, or co-founded the first Tableau user back in 2009, which that was still going strong. And I'm really actually particularly proud of starting Makeover Monday and Workout Wednesday, the first two data community projects anywhere of any tool. And those have been like really influential in people's careers, and it's been really kind of satisfying to be able to kind of be at sort of one of the community leaders that kind of helps people grow their technical skills. Okay, so let's hop into it. So what are Mark's layers? Just trying to set a bit of scope for you here. So first off, it just means you can have unlimited layers within a single sheet. So think about it like a stack of pancakes. You can have as many pancakes as you want, and they can come from as many different chefs as you want, right? So you can have lots of different data sources. They can all work together on the same particular view. This is what I'm going to actually demo to you here in a minute. And then once you look at Mark's layers beyond maps, they give you really precise control over where you display things on the visualization. That's what I'll get to in the second demo that I'm going to show you. And of course, because it's geospatial, you can use any of the different spatial types that Tableau supports, like points, lines, shapes, etc., onto the same view. Okay, so let's start actually by going into a map layers demo. So let me flip over to Tableau. And Michael, if you have like questions along the way, just let me know, and I'll stop. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I downloaded a bunch of data from San Diego Open Data, and I'm just going to show you kind of how layers work. These are all different data sources. They're not different data types, but just trying to give you an idea on what we're looking at here. So we're going to look at things like transportation routes, cycleways, where are the rec centers, what is, different neighborhoods, and where are the fire stations in San Diego. So I've got 6 different layers we're going to look at. But let's actually start with the San Diego neighborhoods. And we just get something really simple like this. Actually, let me go back here and notice the data type here is a multi-polygon. That means there's multiple polygons making up a single polygon. And if I just double click on this I just double click on that geometry field, then Tableau will automatically build a map for us. And you see it's the different neighborhoods in San Diego. Just for clarity, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the map background, just to make it a bit easier to look at. And right now, these are all just a single object. And to show you how we're going to limit some additional data, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create a parameter. And I'm going to call this my spatial parameter. And I'm just doing this so that I can use these neighborhoods to help us filter data in other places. So I'm going to just hit that. And then I'm going to create a dashboard action. And this will be a change parameter action. And I'm just going to populate that with my neighborhoods. Okay. So I'm literally only doing this is the only time I'm going to use that action and updating that parameter. So if I look at this parameter now, you see it has all this kind of gobbledygook in it here. I wanted to populate that parameter so I don't actually need to build relationships between the data sets. Okay, so that's that. And then I could put the neighborhood onto detail and start to split up the views. Now I can see all of the different neighborhoods within San Diego. So let me go ahead and maybe I'll wash those colors out a bit. So that's our first layer. Now, what I want to do is I want to look at, let's say, let's layer the transit routes on top of that. So I'm just going to drag that onto the view. And now I have a brand new data set, right? I didn't create a relationship to the first data set. This is a completely independent data source. And if I look over here, this geometry type here is actually a line. So, right, different data type here. Add that data guide. And now I can drag that on as a separate layer, right? So you have this card called Add Marks layer. Notice it doesn't say map layer. And I'm going to drop that on there, and now I can see the different train routes. So, and I'm going to split that up by the different parts of the view. So now you can see I've got these different segments. Well, some of these are actually outside of the of the neighborhoods. So I want to get rid of those. That's where this parameter is going to come into play. And I'm only doing this to make the view a bit easier to look at. So I'm going to call this just in range. And I'm going to use a function called intersects. This allows us to determine are two spatial objects overlapping each other. So I want to compare the geometry field from my transit routes to my spatial parameter. Okay, so again, I'm using the parameter because it helps me work across the workbook. And if I drag that onto the filters, I'm going to just choose those that are true. And we should see this shrink down. Okay, so notice how the routes outside of that area are no longer visible. And one of the things to notice, we kind of keep your eye on this filter. It's like a regular color blue there. But if I go to this second, back to the other data source, notice how it turns gray. So these filters are actually working independently of each other. Okay, so that's our transit routes. Maybe I'll go ahead and I'll make those like maybe like a dark blue, and maybe I'll make them a bit thinner just so they don't take up so much space. Okay, so we've got something like. And now I want to go ahead and maybe overlay the rec centers. Okay, so you're interested in going to the gym. You want to know where they are. And now I have another geometry field. I'm going to drag that on top. And I meant to go back and look at the data type for that. If I go all the way to the end, notice how this one is a point. So I've got I had a shape, I had a multi-polygon, I have a line, now I have individual points. So I'm actually going to make these ones circles, and I'll put maybe the facility ID onto the view. So now I can see where all the different rec centers are within San Diego. And I'll just make those maybe a light blue. Okay, and now I want to look at something maybe like where are the fire stations. So I'm going to drag this in. Same thing, these are probably points as well because they're just individual locations. And I'm going to drag that onto the view. And now I see where my fire stations are. Okay, well, I'm going to put my, where's my ID field? So this is an ID for each individual fire station. And these I'm actually going to make a shape instead. And let's maybe make those, maybe red exits. It kind of strikes me as something fire-ish. And I'm going to get rid of the halos there. Okay, but again, I only want to see those that are within the neighborhood boundaries. And that's where my parameter comes into play, right? I can use this across different data sources. So I'm going to go back over to my transit routes, and I'm going to go ahead and copy that calculation. I'm going to paste it here and drag that onto my filters. And this filter is working independently of the other ones. Okay, there we go. So now we're just seeing the fire stations inside of that area. And you can kind of go on and on this way, right, with lots of different data sources. So that's just like a really quick taste on how you can use map layers with maps, right? Now, you might want to know, why would you want fire stations and rec centers near each other? Well, maybe that's for emergency services if somebody, passes out on a treadmill or something like that, right? And then, whatever. Anyway, and maybe the public transportation's there so that you know which line you're on, which transit line you're on, where's the nearest rec center, something like that. So that's the kind of stuff that the geospatial analysis allows us to do. So quick map layers demo there. And I just want to show you a few examples of things that we've built in next level Tableau classes in under an hour. So this first one is a commuter flow in Georgia. And what you're looking at here is the county to county commuting. And you can see kind of like the cluster up at the, kind of the upper middle. That's where Atlanta is. And this is basically an analysis of where do people commute to from the different counties in Georgia. So it's like a network type of analysis. And this has three layers. One is the counties in the background. And then we have a dot that acts like our spoke in the middle of each county. And then we have lines connecting each county to every other county that people commute to. And this visualization shows all of the different transportation modes in the city of London. And then we built one with crimes in Chicago. And the neat thing about this is it uses a buffer calculation, which is what those circles are, to allow us to analyze like how many crimes happen within a mile of police stations and different things like that. I think this one has like 6 or 7 different layers. And then we built this one last week in class. This is looking at the impact of hurricanes on the potential, the potential impact of hurricanes on U.S. population. And this is using both spatial parameters, the buffer function, as well as the intersects function. So really, really neat a way to do it there. Okay, but you're actually here to learn how to use marked layers beyond maps. So let me explain how this works. And this, hopefully this analogy works well for you. So if you're a fan of flat Earth, this is right up your alley. If you think about the coordinates of the globe, the longitude, so left to right, goes from minus 180 to 180, and the latitude goes from minus 90 to 90. So as long as you can fit your data inside of that range, you can build it in Tableau. Now that might mean you need to normalize your data. So for example, I'll show you an example here in a minute of how you can do that with sales. But you might need to just like divide your data by 1,000 or something like that in order to get it within the scope. So if your sales are 180,000, you need to divide it by at least 1,000 to get it to fit into this range. But before we do that, and basically as long as you can fit everything inside of that range, you can build anything you can think of in Tableau. So here's an example here I'm going to take you through kind of step by step. So this is a combination pie chart, bar chart. So we have the bar, right, our standard kind of bar chart. But we also have 3 different labels on it. We have the region label, we have the total sales, which is on the kind of inside bottom left of the bar chart, and then we have the percentage on the upper right with our donut chart to the left. So this is a lot of information in a single visualization. This is all done in a single sheet. But it's impossible to do this without map layers. And this is how it works. So when you're drawing a bar, essentially you're drawing a rectangle, but it requires 5 points. And I like to always start at 0, 0, kind of the bottom left of the visual, bottom left down here, because it helps set my mind like, okay, it makes really what I'm trying to say is it makes the math a bit easier for me to understand where I need to go. And if I ever get confused, I just grab some graph paper and try to draw it on a graph paper. And that seems to work well for me. So when you're just trying to draw a bar chart, you're just literally going around and playing connect the dots around the rectangle. So we're going to start at 0, 0, which is 0 latitude, 0 longitude, and we're just going up 1 degree. And then we're going to stay at 1 degree and go over to our percent of total, come back down, and then back down to the beginning. And then we just use one more calculation to draw the donut chart, but that's 2 more layers. So we've got the layer for the pie and then the layer for the donut, and you can come up with this in just a single sheet. Here's another example of something that we've built. These are bar chart hex maps. This was like serious overkill, but it was fun to build. The whole idea where this came from was we wanted to be able to put bar charts inside of hexagons because we liked the layout of hexagons. The hex map in the US, just those are not only visually appealing, but they normalize the size of the states. But then we wanted to be able to show a trend as a bar chart inside of that. And the way that works is because the hexagon is 6 points, you actually need 7 to play connect the dots around the outside of the view. So it just requires some math to figure out what are the different angles that you need to use to go around the view. And then we do the bar charts, the same thing, 5 points around the bar charts. And then we do 1 additional point in the middle to label our state. Bring all those together, and you've got a bar chart hex map. That one was really, really fun to build. And basically, if you can create XY coordinates, then you can build anything in Tableau. And David Liska, who used to be a member of Next Level Tableau, he really liked a demo I showed where we used 6 layers to build a 2x2 barcode chart, and that's actually what I'm going to show you in the demo I'm going to build now. And just let me take you quickly through a few map layer or marks layers of views that we've built for non-standard charts. So this is kind of an additional take on that bar chart I showed you a minute ago. I like to calling it the big beautiful bar chart after the big beautiful bill. And you see the same kind of view that we have, except I'm borrowing Sarah Pallett's idea of drawing an L-shaped bar to kind of give it nice little shape of the I just like kind of how it gives a border on the bar and little dots on the ends. And then we have the little reference line and the donut chart on the left-hand side. This was done all in a single layer. And I'm trying to think how many layers this is. So you have one for the bar, one for the L, it's 2. And then the dots is 3. The line is 4. The marks is 5, 6, 7, and then 8. So this is 9 different layers to build this chart. Is it overkill? Probably, but it actually looks nice, and it was a really fun exercise to build. And the whole idea of building things like this is to kind of open up your mind for what's possible. Another really useful thing to build if you want to just understand how a really simple visualization with map layers is to build a calendar. And the difference between this and or the challenge this helps you overcome from the typical way you would build a calendar in Tableau is that we have the weekday labels and the month labels above each month, and you can't do that without map layers. Okay, and then if you've ever tried to build a marginal histogram in Tableau, it really becomes quite the struggle because of containers. Well, with map layers, you could build all of this in a single visualization. And really, if you think about it, it's just 3 different bar charts. We have our bar charts for our weekdays. We have a bar chart for our hours. And then even though these look like rectangles, they're really just bar charts, right? We're just connecting the dots in there as well. And we just need to figure out where to put them, and then we're good to go. Right? And this was a really fun one. This one took us a couple of classes to build, but these are all different layers. So every kind of column you see here is a different layer. And, so you can build some really beautiful looking, really sophisticated visualizations with layers. And if you've ever tried to build a gauge chart in Tableau, you probably get really confused by all of the table calculations you need to build. Well, when I figured out how to build this one with map layers, it made it significantly easier because all you really need to understand is go back to your middle school geometry and remember what sine and cosine mean, because really all we're doing is drawing 2 semicircles and then connecting the feet from the semicircle. So in theory, it's actually quite simple. We're just drawing a bunch of dots and playing connect the dots around the edges. And we also built a jump plot timeline. And the difference here is, yes, again, you could do this with containers where you have a container for your bands and you have another container for the jump plot and, another sheet for your timeline. But the issue becomes getting all of this to line up perfectly. Where when you use map layers, you can get the timeline and the arcs to line up perfectly every single time. And I did a presentation at the Analytics Tug last week on how to build this particular visualization. It's probably up on their YouTube now, but in that particular demonstration, what we looked at was customer retention. So we want to know which customers are longest serving customers. So each hop, you see, would have been a customer. Where did the customer make their first purchase? When did they make their last purchase, right? So we're just trying to look at how long customers have been around this. But I want to show you my step-by-step process for using Mark's layers. And I'm going to show you how to build this barcode KPI chart. Okay, so we need to figure out how to build all of the different layers to make this work. So let me switch back over to Tableau, and I'm going to create a new sheet. And I've got 2 different data sources here. One is just a simple sales versus budget. So let me drop that in. You see nothing sophisticated there. We've got date, region, sales, and budget. And then I need to relate that to a data set. And this one has 100 points. And essentially, why do I need 100? Well, if I go back over here, I've got up to 100%. But what I'm going to demo to you actually is only using 25. So each of these really represents 4%. Okay, so I'm going to just drag that data set over. And now I need to build a calculated relationship for these. And this is where relationships become really handy, because previously you would have needed to do this with a join. And that would mean you're creating 100 records for each of your individual rows in your sales and budget data source. So I'm just going to create a relationship calculation that connects them together. It's kind of acting like a join. Okay, so now what I want to do here is I want to go ahead and create a bunch of calculations that are going to help us draw those rectangular bars. So I'm going to start by creating a new calculated field, and I'm going to call this my bars. And I'm going to use the make point function. Now I'm going left to right and top to bottom. So I want to actually start my my latitude at 0, and I'm going to have my longitude at my point height. Okay, and I've got notes in case I mess up. Just bring those up to make sure I'm doing this right, because I changed. I noticed this morning there was actually a much easier way to do this. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK there. And I'm going to just double click on that, and you see I get a bunch of circles here. Okay, no worries. We're good to go there so far. But I'm going to change that into a bar. Sorry, not a bar, a Gantt bar. And what I want to do is I want to make that go up from 0 degrees to 1 degree. So I'm going to just put the average of 1 and drag that onto the size. And I get just a single bar now. Well, I need to put my point ID field onto detail to now get, there's actually 100 marks here. You can maybe see it kind of jittering as I go through it. Now, we can't see it as little bars yet because we have the map background. And we're only showing 1 degree, where this is obviously showing, probably close to 90 degrees. In the map background is showing about 90 degrees. But we're going to take care of that. Oops, didn't mean to paste that. So now I want to create another calculated field that's going to show me the percent of total sales. And with map layers, you have to, you can't use table calculations with map layers. So I'm going to have to compute my percent of total sales as a level of detail expression. So that's going to be the sum of sales divided by the sum, and I'm going to start playing Geospatial, the sum of sales. Okay, that's just going to give me my total sales. And let me go ahead and set the default number format for that to a percentage. We'll just round it to 0 decimals. We're going to use that here in a minute. Okay, so for simplicity, I'm going to just filter my point IDs. I only want to keep 25 of them. So I mentioned how, we don't need to draw all 100. We could, but we're not going to bother. And there we go. So now you see it just makes the view a bit easier, not quite so crowded to look at. Okay, so what do I want to do next? All right, so I'm going to start by let me just filter down to a single region for now, just to make it a bit easier to understand. And I'm going to create a new calculated field that is going to tell me which marks I need to color. So I'm going to call this marks to color. And for this particular calculation, I want to look at my percent of total sales, but I want to multiply that by 25 because I need to make it a whole number, and I'm only showing 25 of the bars. And I want to say, is that greater than or equal to my point ID? Okay, so again, my point ID goes from 1 to 100. So that's why I need to multiply the percent of total sales to get it back to a regular number. So if my percent of total sales is 0.1, that's going to make it 2.5, which means it's going to color code the first 2 point IDs. But because the percent of total sales is an aggregate, I need to make the point ID an aggregate as well. Let me just use an attribute function there. And if I drag that onto color, you'll see I have a true and a false. So I can see the different colors I have there. Let me go ahead and change those. I'll use my next level Tableau color. Oh, it's not on here. I'll just use the red and the gray. And again, we can't quite see it yet, but we'll come back to that. Okay, so now if I flip back over to what we're trying to build, I've now kind of built these bars. We can't see them zoomed in yet, and I need to start building this kind of structure around the outside with all of these different labels. Well, let's start by creating a calculated field for our sales label. Oops. And the calculation for this one is I'm going to use the make point function. And if I look back over here, notice it's out here on the right-hand side. Okay, so it's going to be below my bar, but out to the right of the chart. So I'm going to start at 0, because that's going to give me the bottom of the bar. And then I need to extend it slightly past the last bar. And you'll see here in a second why it needs to be slightly past. But okay. And now when I drag that on, I can add it as a layer. And notice I get a little dot out here on the right-hand side. So right here, I get this little dot. Now I'm going to make that a circle. And then I'm going to go ahead and drag my sales onto my label shelf. And for the formatting here, I want to set it underneath the circle, but I want it to be to the left. And notice now it lines up exactly with the outside of this bar here, right? So it's just kind of a bit of experience there. And I'm going to shrink down the size of the circle and reduce the opacity so that you can't really see it. So I'm using the circle more or less as a placeholder. Well, now I have two layers, which means I can get rid of my map background. So if I change this to none, now suddenly I have our nice little bar chart. So just like, it's kind of magical how that kind of all comes together right there. Now in my label here, I'm going to make this maybe make it like 15 point and bold. You can see we've got our nice little label down here on the bottom, right? And I'm going to go ahead and turn off disable. I'm going to go ahead and disable the selection. And now I can't actually click. And maybe I should do the same thing here as well. And I'm going to need region on the view because eventually I'm going to bring all of the regions into this data source. So if you hover over the bars, oh no, I disabled selection there. Just to show you now. So I have my region and the value there. Okay, so let me disable selection again. So we now have our first point. Okay, well, let's go ahead and create another calculated field. That is going to be our region label. And I'm going to use the make point function again. And this is going to go on our bottom left of our chart. Okay, so that means it's going to be at 0 again, but I need it to be 0.5, so it needs to be just to the left of that first bar. So that first bar starts at 1. Click on OK. And when I drag that onto the view, we go ahead and make it a circle. And now you can see I've got that mark right there. And I'm going to drag my region onto the label. Okay, and then it's a bit of formatting. So let me make it maybe 15. And my alignment is going to be to the bottom, but this time to the right. And then I'll reduce the circle size down. And as I reduce the size of the circle, basically that just kind of moves the text over to the left a bit, reduce the opacity, and disable the selection. So hopefully you kind of see this coming together now. All right, so next we have our 0 and our 100 and our actual value. So let's create another calculated field. And this one is going to be our 0 label. And this time, we're simply going to go, our latitude is going to be 1, and our longitude will be 0. Sorry, no, our longitude should be 0.5. Okay, similar to what we did down here for the Asia Pacific. So I'm going to drag that onto the view, make it a circle, and now I get the circle at the top. And I know my label needs to be 0, so I'm just going to do 0%. Oops, I could type correctly, that would help. And I'll drag that onto the label, and now I have my 0%. And I'll set that, maybe I'll make that one like 10, and I will set this one to the right, but this time to the top. So it goes up there. And again, reduce the circle size, reduce the opacity, and disable the selections. Now we have that 0 perfectly placed. Okay, now 100% label is going to be similar. So I'm going to this time I'm going to duplicate my 0 label. And this is going to be our 100% label. And again, we're going to be at 1, but we want to be 25.5. So just past that last bar there. And let's drag that on as another layer. Make it a circle. And hopefully you're starting to see these steps kind of get very repetitive. Let's reduce the color. Hopefully. Let's reduce the size. And this time on my text, it's going to just be 100%. And drag that onto the label. And we're going to align that to the top and to the left. Okay. And did I disable section? Yes. And I need to make sure I put region on the detail. And I think I forgot to do that here as well. Okay. There's our region. Okay. So now what I could do is I have region on the view. So let me go ahead, I got one more calculation to create. And this is what do I call this? Our actuals point. And so this calculation will again be our make point function. We're going to do it at 1 because we want to go up above the bar. And this time it's going to be our percent total sales times 25. Okay, so that's just going to give us the position there. Drag that onto the view, make it a circle. And let's set the label. Let's see. So my label should be my percent of total sales, region on detail. Okay, now this particular label, I'm going to go ahead and place above the circle for consistency, and I'm going to set it to the center horizontally. Move the size down, reduce the color, and maybe this one I'll make off. Okay, something like that. Again, you can customize it to your heart's content. Yeah. I'm on a call. Yeah. Anyway, so let me go ahead and take this field off the filters, and I'm going to create, and notice I have multiple marks up here, right? One for each individual measure. So I'm going to create a new calculated field. I'm going to call this my columns. And this particular calculation, this is a bit complicated, so I'm just going to actually just copy and paste here. So copy, and I'll paste that there. Don't worry about what it does. I need that to be discrete because I want to split up the rows. Put that in the columns, and now I'm going to create another calculation for our rows. And this calculation is going to be a little bit different. All these calculations are doing is trying to figure out how to lay out the grid. So this one is going to be discrete. Put that one in the rows. And then to compute both of these by region, because I wanted to recompute for each individual region. There we go. So now I've got my 2 by 2. I can find my headers. I can edit my axis now to give it a bit more room to breathe. So I'm going to go from -1 to 2. Go ahead and hide these headers. Hide the header at the bottom. And if I want, I can make these bars a little bit thinner to give them a bit more space to breathe. And there we go. We're all done. We've got our really cool looking bar code chart. Okay, so in the chat, what's really helpful for me when I run these types of sessions is to understand kind of what you like best. And Michael, maybe you can read some of these out as they come in. It really helps me make these sessions better for you. I have about 5 minutes left because I need to get my mom to the dentist. So she's sitting across from me getting a patient. But yeah, in the comments, let me know what you like best. But if you enjoyed today's session, I have something free for you. So I created a course called the 30-Day Tableau Skill Building Accelerator. All you need to do is it's going to take you through all these different foundation pieces that you need to get pretty good at Tableau pretty quickly. So you're going to start with the core foundations, like what are the most important things you need to learn, calculations, interactivity, working with containers, KPIs, and then a bit of advanced techniques. Plus you get access to webinars, our next level Tableau conference, and more of those are added each month. Completely free. All you need to do is just scan this QR code or go to nextleveltableau.com/accelerator. It'll create an account for you on Next Level Tableau. If you already have an account, you will already see this. And yeah, that's what I have for you today for letting me speak. So thank you very much. So Michael, any questions, comments, anything in the chat?
That was brilliant. Thank you, Andy. I love how it kind of reminds me of those art shows where you don't know what it is until the last minute and everything starts to fall into place right at the last minute.
Yeah.
As people are putting in their favorite things, Judd did ask, can you review the underlying lat long grid that you created?
Did I review it?
Yeah. I'm not sure, Judd, if you want to elaborate on that.
I think the easiest thing to do is if I unhide these headers, the latitude and longitude here. So you can see this is my latitude. Everything goes from 0 to 1, and then left side everything goes from 0 to 25. And that's the entire grid that I'm using. So if I go back over in the presentation to, let me see here, let me go back. This grid here, that's all good. I'm just trying to make sure that all of the data fits within this particular grid. So don't know if that answers those questions.
It seems to have answered his question. And then not
Okay.
too many other questions, but lots of people really loved how this came together. Canwell was asking, can we get the workbook? Canwell, I'll get that link out to you. And yeah, a lot of love for this building things and that. It kind of blows people away when you do these demos, and that's really cool to see.
Yeah, and hopefully people are saying it's actually not that complicated. When I think about it, I literally just kind of picture a grid in my head. Like, how do I lay these things out as logically as possible?
Great. And then if there's no more questions, and then if you still have a couple of minutes, Andy, just outside of today's presentation, you shared that you started the first Tableau user group in Atlanta, I think, which is something
Yes.
that I didn't know about. What are some of the sessions that you ran that you thought that you really enjoyed running or that you found really beneficial to your members?
So the way that we always ran the Atlanta Tableau user group, and I think it still runs this way today, is it was broken up into 3 parts. It was always in the middle of the day. It was always in person. And there was always a training element to it. So it made it a good reason for people to get out of the office to come to those sessions because they're getting free training, right? Easy way to justify it to their boss. But essentially what we would do is we'd always kind of have a guest speaker for the first part. And that might be 20, 30 minutes, something like that. And then there would be some sort of training, like you're learning a particular topic, maybe it's map layers. And then the third part would be where you get a data set and you go build something in a small group. So maybe 2 or 3 people at a time, and then you can present back what you do. And the people that are running the user group walk around and help the people. So that's the way that we ran it. It always worked really well. So that's kind of what I would recommend.
Great. And then still up on Andy's screen is this QR code to get access to the Next Level Tableau Accelerator. We'll just give that a second for you to grab that if you need it. We'll post the link as well during the chat. But Andy, I can see you packing up. We really appreciate you joining and answering our questions and sharing today. So good luck to your mom at the dentist.
Great. Yeah. Thanks. Sorry. I had totally forgotten about needing to take her today. So sorry. Thanks for being able to adjust last minute like this. So thank you everybody very much and appreciate your time. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it.
Bye. You're welcome. Bye.
Okay. So let me actually just stop sharing briefly. And before I get on with the rest of today's user group, I want to do a shout out. Now, many of you attended Tableau Conference, and Tableau Conference was a fantastic event, but part of what made it so great was that San Diego Tableau User Group kicked it off with an event called Data Plus Tacos. And this was extraordinarily successful. And people that I spoke to at Data Plus Tacos really appreciate the opportunity to meet ahead of conference, because conference is intimidating and it's not always the best setting to meet and socialize with people. And what some people don't realize is that it is not a Tableau event. This is put on by the San Diego Tableau user group, but more specifically, this is put on by Luigi. And this is the 3rd year that he's done it. And each year he gets bigger and bigger, and he always rises to the occasion. And he probably hates that I have this slide up right now, but it's a great event. He was perhaps the only person in the room that was disappointed that I was coming back to San Diego again next year, because it means we've got to do it all over again. But big thank you, kudos, credits to Luigi, because this was a lot of work, and we are really appreciative that we have you here putting this on for the community. So thank you, Luigi, and I can see lots of congratulations coming through on the chat. I don't know if you want to say something.
Oh, shucks.
Also, kudos for always finding great tacos.
Thank you. I love doing it. It's every San Diego Tableau User Group event is my favorite, but this is my favorite of the year. Having everybody come in, getting to see happy faces, people reuniting, having conversations, and tacos, and just that's what the community is about. Data fam and tacos. But yeah, can't wait to do it again next year. And as soon as we get next year's dates for conference, we'll we'll start the countdown again, and I hope to see you all there.
Yeah, thank you again, Luigi. I doubt it'll ever line up as nicely as this with May the 4th and all of the Star Wars themes and episode 3, but I felt like it was a perfect storm this year and you pulled off a fantastic event. So lots of thank yous there.
Thank you.
Okay, so some of you, this might be your first time joining us, and some of you may have been here before, but ways to get involved with the San Diego Tableau user group, you can join our Slack channels. We have a few cool boards up on there, and including job boards if you're in the market for a new position. Luigi shared something just earlier this week. And there's the QR code there, and we can get those links out to you as well. You can also join us on LinkedIn. We have I think it's a closed channel for the San Diego Tableau user group for some news about upcoming events. And on either of those channels, what we'd love to hear is, what do you want to see from this San Diego Tableau user? Different sessions that we can put on. We can have more people like Andy coming on from Panera Bread and sharing sharing his map players presentation, or different Tableau visionaries and ambassadors coming on and doing some of that training that Andy was talking about that was so successful at the Atlanta one. I personally love the in-person meetups that we have, and we did one a few months back where we did a beach cleanup, and I think Luigi's already planning for another beach cleanup in August, which is something I'm really excited about. So tell us what you want to see, and then we will try and make it happen. That is our content for today. I'm due some of you a few links. I'll post them in the LinkedIn channel and the Slack channel after the fact. But unless anybody has anything else, thank you for joining us on a time that we don't usually have these sessions on, but we were trying to accommodate our guest speaker today. So I really appreciate you all taking the time in the middle of the workday for some of you, and we will see you next time.